What's up, YouTube? Ryan Panny here. It's time for a review of the new Cozz record, Effected, out 2 weeks ago now, February 13th. I'm pretty sure, grammatically speaking, in like 90% of cases, it should be affected with an A. But I'm pretty sure that like when you effect change, like E-F-F-E-C-T, you can have effected change in the past. I think that's a thing. But you know what? Since this guy's debut was Cozz and Effect back in 2014, I get it. I see the connection. Cozz is one of the names that gets thrown around a lot in the whole young but promising up-and-coming rappers category. He's actually from the West Coast, but he's most known as a J. Cole protege, being signed to Cole's Dreamville record label. As I mentioned, his debut album was Cozz and Effect in 2014. A lot of positive reception to that one. People were praising his emphasis on lyricism and storytelling and introspection and yada 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 and yada 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 yada. Not surprisingly, a lot of the things that J. Cole fans say that are always saying that matter to them. I liked a few tracks on Cozz and Effect. It definitely put Cozz on my radar screen when it came to looking out for his future projects. And, you know, I really appreciate that he took his fucking time with making this follow-up rather than just like trying to desperately flood the market with just whack, half-ass shit like it seems like every other up-and-coming rapper is trying to do. And to Cozz's credit, Effected is clearly a very well thought out and cohesive project. You know, I would describe the sound and approach of this record as pretty minimalistic. For the most part, it's just Cozz's rhymes and an instrumental. That's it. Not too many bells and whistles production-wise. Feature-wise, you know, there's 4 listed features, 2 of which are Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole. So those 2 are likely being used to draw people in. And once you're in, the experience of this record is pretty much just one guy and his feelings and point of view, and most importantly, his chance to impress you. I'll say this, Cozz definitely gets my attention from the jump with the opening track Questions. He sounds so hungry on this one. He sounds like a hungry up-and-coming rapper should sound. He sounds like he fucking wants it. And there's a couple good lines in there. There's a cheeky pussy joke that references Kirby from the Nintendo franchise. There's a line about turning a dude's afro into a perm. He definitely gets my attention on this intro. It's definitely a solid, if slightly understated, way to start the record. Unfortunately though, as I get into the meat of this track list, Cozz's whole approach, his rhyming, his song topics, his bars, his punchlines, it all feels kind of generic. You know, like the guy is clearly a student of the game. He clearly puts a lot of thought into his rhyme schemes, which I definitely appreciate, but what separates him? What differentiates Cozz? I don't hear it. There have got to be thousands, I'm serious, thousands of talented up-and-coming rappers that check all the same boxes that Cozz checks off on here. I don't hear what separates him from the pack on this record. Tracks like Ignorant Confidence and Not a Minute More and Van Ness, they feel so dime a dozen. Like they kind of just flash by without leaving some sort of unique trace behind where you can go, oh, that's a Cozz track, you know? They're not bad by any means. It's just like with Van Ness, like the way that Cozz attacks this beat, it clearly feels like he's trying to impress you lyrically. But then you look at these rhyme schemes and it's rap addict and crack addict and back at it. You know, it's pretty basic stuff. It's nothing to write home about. And his flow on this track, he's got a lot of great energy, but his flow feels very contemporary to someone like a Big Sean, for example. The song Not a Minute More, we've got horse and Porsche and a very common pun about beef, and then on Badu with Currency, who I think in that song Currency bodies Cozz. That's just me. We got stacking money and thanking God and a bunch of shit that, you know, none of it's fundamentally bad by any means. There's just nothing to draw me in and say, wow, I couldn't get this anywhere else, you know? And the star power of Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole doesn't really do too much. You know, I like the Cole track, Zendaya. I think that's a really nice like mentor to protege moment that's happening on Wax. Weird instrumental choice though. I think that pitched up vocal sample was kind of nails on the chalkboard. It was meant to be exotic, but it's more the other way. Like exotic in a bad way. As for the Kendrick track, Hustle Story, you know, Kung Fu Kenny brings that same kind of sluggish flow that was all over Damn on tracks like Ya. It's a decent song. But hey, while these songs as a whole might not be too memorable for me, Cozz definitely does squeeze in some very fun and very memorable individual bars, which should be taken as clearly a hint at potential future greatness. I think so, at least, because anytime you can make a line that sticks with someone, that's no small feat. That's something that we should look at as, you know, this guy's got something. On Van Ness, there's that line, by the grade of fifth, my brain was 86. That always makes me chuckle. On Proof, there's a funny sex pun about Dr. Seuss and Cat in the Hat. That's the Thing has a great football reference with the Cheeseheads line. And on the title cut, my favorite line on the whole album is the beef with Five Guys pun. That's very clever, and I always feel compelled to rap along with it when it comes up. So, you know, having lines that stick with people, that's a great sign and a great start when it comes to being a compelling rapper. And you know, the other thing that Cozz has going for him is he's a really good beat picker, I think. You know, I mentioned the title track. I fucking love his choice of instrumental on that one. It's just a fucking grimy, pure 90s, like Mobb Deep type beat. Just a killer kick drum sound. I love that it's bass driven. I always think that bass driven hip hop instrumentals sound that much more menacing. I love the slightly exotic instrumental on Freaky 45, which is of course, the cougar hunting anthem. A lot of these beats just sound great to just cruise to. Like Van Ness is a great example of that. In general, Cozz has made a great album to just put on in the car and cruise to. There's also the track Bout It, which has some nice piano balladry to it. It's hands down my favorite track on the record. It's one of the few genuinely catchy hooks on here, which I should kind of mention as a negative. There's sort of an egregious lack of hooks with a lot of these tracks, but this one's fantastic. And just thematically, Cozz conveys this defiant bitterness so well on this song. It's a fucking theme song for anybody who's ever proven somebody wrong or risen above the expectations of others. So yeah, Bout It, great track. And the song My Love, that's another highlight for me. You know, topically it may be your typical misogynistic money over bitches kind of thing, but Cozz just wears it so well. Like, it feels genuine with him. When he talks about this shit, it feels like it's actually how he feels right now. And you know how I know that? Because it connects back to shit he was talking about on like Freaky 45, which is a song about how he just wants cougars who don't bother him instead of the girls his age or who are constantly blowing up his phone. So it feels genuine. It feels like this is actually where he's coming from. And one last positive that I can acknowledge with this album is that there's clearly an effort to have some sense of concept and cohesion here. Like how Hustle's Story ends with a phone call from a friend who's like, hey, let's hit a lick, let's commit some crimes. And then on the very beginning of the next track, Ignorant Confidence, Cozz is boasting about what they just did. So I enjoy how that song connects. And then the best example of that is probably Demons and Distractions. How in the verses of this song, Cozz is complaining about like his girl blowing up his phone and ruining his takes in the studio. And then appropriately, the song cuts off and he gets a phone call from his girl. And then, of course, it segues into a song I just talked about, Freaky 45, where he's complaining the whole time about girls bothering him. So I do appreciate the effort that went into connecting these tracks together. So if you like this album, I feel you. It's definitely got some positives to it. I just think that Cozz has to figure out what sets him apart. Is it lyrical? Is it his particular story? Is it a certain musical approach? Is it some overarching sense of concept? Because whatever it is, I don't think he's found it yet. Because as far as I can tell, it's not on here. So I'll definitely continue to follow Cozz, but with this particular project, I'm kind of indifferent to it. But look, the guy's still very young and has a lot of potential, so we'll just have to wait and see. Affected gets a 5 out of 10 from me. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. If you liked this video and you are not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so by clicking here or checking out some of my other content that's available, and I'll see you soon.